The purpose of my market research was to find a target audience which would be needed for me to base my production around. I wanted to ask questions which are relevant to what would be featured in my production and what the audience would want to see me implement. If I was able to identify an audience, I would be able to know what I would need to add to my production so I can advertise College Plus and the LRC to the right people with the right methods. I also wanted to research on areas such as what information was provided to me on the websites regarding College Plus activities, and what the LRC offers for students, and what issues both of these areas are going through. This information would be useful for me to use within my production. The focus groups I performed were my primary research used for preparing my production. It was my main way of knowing what I will need to implement into my production, and what kind of audience I'll need to appeal it to. Basically, the focus groups are the main forms of research which I would need to set the production around. My facts and figures, my contributors, the production crew listings, my locations, and my prompts were the secondary forms of research. While they don't center the production like the focus groups did, this information could still be important for me to rely on when creating my production. My facts and figures feature the information which College Plus and the LRC provide for me, meaning I would want to use it as evidence for any statements I make within my production. Researching my contributors, cast, and crew would be important for me to know so I can gather them when I would need to film them during their scenes. The locations are important because I will be filming in them, meaning I would want to ask particular people who run the areas for permission to film in them for the production, so it can look more authentic. And finally, I would need to research on props so I can know what I would need to hire, and I would need to arrange dates so I can know when I would need to return it. The data of my research was split into two types. Those were quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is the use of numerical results to convey data, and qualitative is the use of well-presented information to display data. Quantitative data was used when I was constructing my graphs for my focus group and questionnaire results. Forming them into a graph is the easiest method for me to consult the information given to me and form it into a conclusion for what would I need to apply into my production. My secondary research had a form of quantitative data as well, mainly in the form of timetables of when the LRC opens and closes. This data could be useful for me because I can apply it to my production and give information to students on the availability for the area in question. Qualitative data was my primary form of secondary research. I compiled high-quality data regarding College Plus and the LRC for me to use within my production. Examples of this included the types of activities College Plus provide and what features are accessible for students to use in the LRC. I also compiled lists of what equipment I would need to use within my production, such as what camera I would be using, and if or not I would be using a microphone. Another form of qualitative data was my themes for my focus groups. I wanted to list all of the most common answers which were mentioned when performing my survey, so I could figure out in detail what most of the students wanted to see out of the areas which were being advertised. The responses I received from my focus groups about their personal facts were divided in terms of relevance towards College Plus. The results would allow me to learn what students would be interested in, and if College Plus would be right for them. According to my focus groups, most of their interests and hobbies can easily be applied to College Plus, and are relevant to said area, meaning a majority of students in college would be able to participate in the activities, and be able to maintain enthusiasm when taking part in them. Now, thoughts on Worthing College were divided in terms of positive feedback and constructive feedback of the area. The thoughts would allow me to discover whether or not the students are enjoying their time here, and how they could improve their experience. Most of my focus group gave positive feedback towards Worthing College, meaning that a majority of students would have come here at free will, and they enjoy their time at the area. meaning I can use College Plus as a way of expanding their enthusiasm towards the area further, rather than just trying to get them to enjoy the area. I managed thoughts on independent study based on positive and constructive feedback. The feedback would allow me to find out whether or not the students are struggling with independent study, and if the LRC would need to be advertised as a way to assist their problems. A majority of my focus group gave constructive feedback towards independent study, meaning that they usually tend to struggle to complete or enjoy the tasks provided for them. I could use these facts to assist me with advertising the LRC as a way of getting work completed in a faster rate. I measured writing speed in terms of how fast or slow my focus groups will be able to write. I can apply these results to my production by deciding whether or not to advertise the LRC as a way of helping those who are slow at writing in the college. I discovered that most of my focus group have moderately fast writing. Because of this, I don't have to advertise the LRC as a way of getting students who struggle at writing to give them a boost to meet their deadlines. I divided thoughts from the focus group about the LRC into positive and constructive opinions. Whatever thoughts would be in the majority would affect how I advertise the LRC in my production. Because most of my focus groups gave positive reactions towards the LRC, this means I can use these responses as evidence to back up the library's success and allow the target audience to be more convinced by it and use it for assistance if they're struggling with any independent study work. I wanted to learn whether or not my focus groups performed independent study within their free time. I could apply this information to my project by advertising the LRC as a way of balancing the students' free time if they have too much independent study to do. If the activities are irrelevant, it could allow me to decide whether or not the students have time to attend College Plus. The results I've discovered suggest to me that a majority of students manage their time between independent study and leisure time, with independent study being a priority according to my graph, meaning I can focus on advertising the LRC as a way of assisting students who spend too much time at home doing independent study, rather than advertising College Plus as a way of getting students more devoted to the area if they spend too much of their free time doing other things. I want to learn whether or not my focus group have heard of College Plus. Depending on the result, I will need to describe and advertise College Plus in more detail and appeal it to newcomers. I discovered that a majority of my focus group were unaware of College Plus. In order to appeal to my target audience, I should make my production spend at least a minute discussing to students what College Plus is about and advertise features as to why they should attend it. I wanted to learn about whether or not my focus groups would be interested in attending College Plus. I could apply this information to my project by advertising the area depending on the results. A majority of my focus group schedules prevent them from attending College Plus. To react to these results, I will need to advertise College Plus within my production as to persuade my target group to attend it by stating that different sessions of it occur at different times, meaning students will be convinced to attend clubs which appeal to them depending on what times each of them occur, and if they can fit them into their schedules. Finally, I wanted to learn what my focus groups wish to see in College Plus. I could then apply this information by featuring the most requested results when advertising a list of activities available to College Plus. The most popular results were clubs devoted to sports and arts. I should apply this to my production by having these particular clubs be the main priorities when advertising College Plus to new students, meaning I will be able to capture the attention of what appears to be the majority of students attending the college, and be able to convince them to attend College Plus using these activities. I also discovered particular information which was provided to me by the LRC. They provide to students information such as what kinds of books they can access and read to assist their knowledge about particular subjects, a guide assisting them with university and career choices, DVDs which they can rent for personal amusement, computers which are available within a drop-in use for them to use for extra work required, laptops which they can rent and use in learning zones, and printers which they can use for any withstanding work which tutors expect them to hand in. The LRC also provides students a map which they can use if they ever get lost as to where everything is placed and which workers reside in which areas. This could be a useful feature for newcomers so they can get accustomed to the area upon arrival. I should apply this map to my production so students can get a clear picture of the area early on. The main features which College Plus have brought up on their webpage include the list of clubs which the service provides for students, the times which they can be attended by the students in times of what day of the week, which time slot it fits into, and when it ends. The website also provides which rooms the College Plus sessions will take place in. This information is important to students because they would need to know this basic information so they can easily access the correct area at the correct times. In order to create convincing content to promote College Plus, I would need people who run particular activities and those who attend the activities so they can share their views on what College Plus is about, what the people do there, and why students could be appealed by it. Using these people in particular would allow me to have high quality evidence regarding information surrounding College Plus, and this will convince students that everything discussed within the production is genuine information told by people relevant to the subject. In order to create convincing content to promote the college LRC, I will need to gather the staff who moderate the area, and possibly some of the students who regularly attend it. Their information on what the LRC is about, what they provide for the students, and why it could be helpful for them are all factors which could be suitable for my production. This is because the content would allow me to have evidence for my target audience as to why the LRC would be suitable for them, and this will result in them being convinced by my production due to its authentic nature in demonstrating the views which people important to the area have shared to them. I will be the main one performing most technical work in the production such as filming and editing. This will be because I'll be working with limited resources, such as the single camera and the equipment which comes with it, meaning I will not require a large amount of assistance in terms of technical production. This production will only have a time frame of 2 to 3 minutes, meaning I won't have a crew to prepare, film, or edit any scenes that could be remaining, and why I wouldn't be able to create in time for the deadline, meaning the production and editing crew would not be required in terms of this video. The main location which will be used is Worthing College. This is obviously because I intend on promoting features which are specific to the area. The main parts of the building which I'll be filming in the LRC, and any areas where College Plus activities occur. I would need to situate filming in these areas because I would want the target audience to have an understanding on what the places the production is recommending to them look like, so they can decide whether or not the areas are suitable for them to attend. I should consider on acquiring permission to film in the specific areas in order to make sure that the contributors which are being filmed in would have a comfortable time and they wouldn't feel pressured by the objectives I may be giving to them. The props and kit that will be used for my production are an AVC HD camera, a tripod, a camera microphone, and the Worthing College LRC computers. The target audience for my production are mainly students who are either starting college or are attending their second year and are committed to the work they have. My target audience mainly show enthusiasm towards hobbies like sports and arts, which should affect how I advertise College Plus within my production. My target audience mainly devote their time to independent study during their free time, but they don't feel they have enough time to finish it, which should affect how I advertise the LRC within my production and what it would provide to them. The video will mainly be describing the features which College Plus and the LRC provide. I want this production to provide simplistic explanations for the areas in order for the target audience to find it easy to follow and be able to be convinced by the content provided. Another way of convincing the audience about the effectiveness on the area is by having people who specialise in these departments to be interviewed and give evidence on what the areas are about and why they could be useful for students. I intend on the production using direct address, so the students will be able to track knowledge that the content has been written specifically for them, and they will be able to easily understand what the video is trying to inform them about the particular areas of the college. They can then create an opinion based on the information provided to them. I would say that my research methods were generally effective at what I was using them for. I managed to use my focus groups to allow me to find the correct information for me to use within my production and establish a target audience for me to work around. I also felt that my secondary research was effective because I was able to learn from the college about most of the content which College Plus and the LRC provide for students, such as timetables, computers and books. I am also now able to use this information to advertise these areas within my production. An issue that I felt occurred in my research was that I used a limited amount of people when creating my questionnaire. This was an issue because I wouldn't be able to provide effective evidence of what my audience expect from College Plus and the LRC without data from my focus group surveys to back them up. I also felt that some of my questions in my focus groups lacked direction and wouldn't affect the final result of a target audience, meaning that in some of the focus groups I performed, I lacked as much relevant information regarding the content in my production as I would have intended. I can confirm that I have read the Ofcom broadcasting regulations. The content which will be featured within the production doesn't conflict with any of the guidelines provided. Thank you for watching this presentation. I hope I have been able to give you an insight of what I intend to produce and how I intend to create it.